welcome to another edition of Dan's Fishing Tales. Today we're going to be talking about fishing something that's called a limit getter. There's a lot of these on the market. This particular one happens to be Natural Forage Baits. Of course, you know I'm a big fan of anything that's Natural Forage Baits. And I happen to have a Z-Man shroom head on here as the jig head. Normally I'd be using a bee fishing head, but I happen to have this on there, so I just grabbed it, and I may switch, who knows. But anyway, I've got my handing fishing rig here, that Magic Soul matching outfit, and we're going to be trying this, and probably with a lot of darting. And you know I've talked about darting, and pretty soon we're going to do another video. We're going to be combining darting with straight and finger jigging. And there's a reason that you would combine that, and we'll be talking about it in that video, but that's an upcoming one. Right now we're going to be darting this limit getter and see how it works. There's several different ways that you can fish this. One is darting, like I said. Another is simply by lift and fall. Very easy, or just a straight pull. A straight pull, you'd be surprised at how many times you're actually doing nothing but just going along real slow. And so anyway, that's what we're going to be trying. We're going to see how some of this works, how this one happens to work. We had just a major front go through, so I really don't know how this is going to work out. But a lot of times, that's the time to get these limit getters and use them, because well, let's see if we can get something on a limit getter. Before we get too far along here, I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the rigging that you can do with this. I've been getting quite a few hits out there. I mean, I know you haven't been seeing it because I cut it all out. But of course I was rigging on a jig head like this, and that's how they're hitting it right now in the fall. But you can also Texas rig these if you want. And with this particular one, I'd use one of the smaller Pro X hooks that they have out. And those Pro X hooks are really nice hooks. I use a lot of different types, of course, but the Pro X is a good strong hook, and I've told you before about it, the advantages of it. Because it is that strong and it has much better penetration, you can set the hook at a little bit longer distance, but also a light outfit like this, you can set the hook with it a little bit better. Another thing that you can do is hook it right in the middle. Do it wacky style. I was going to say wiki style. No, you do it wacky style. You hook it right here in the middle. Again, you can use the Pro X hook with that. There are different ways like that. Just pretty much any way you rig a plastic worm, you can do a limit getter. And why is a limit getter so effective? Really don't know, except for the fact that it's just straight. And when you look at minnows or anything else down there, a lot of stuff, there's not a lot of this wild action that comes to it. This is basically something that goes down this way, and with a jig head with this like this, you got a lot of tail back here that can kind of wave up and down, quite similar to what a leech would, but this isn't as small as what a leech is. And I'm starting to already wear this out. That's how many hits I've had, and I've lost some too, which again you haven't seen. So anyway, let's get back around there, and I'll be talking to you a little bit more about this as we go. And by the way, this also has kicking bass in it, so that helps. And I've got some extra if I want to put more kicking bass on it. So let's get around here, and I'm going to be fishing just a little bit further up. There's a cove. There's a wind's kind of sweeping in two different directions, and that's where I want to fish right now. Through it. Heck, through the whole doggone bait. Kind of thought it flew off. I'll show you how I put this on the hook. I know everybody knows how to put a worm on a hook, but I see an awful lot of them come out kind of cattywampus. You have this barb on this one, this particular one. I've got it wrapped around the rod there. See there? I use this end. Now, here's a trick too. Once in a while, use the opposite end. But right now I'm not, because it seems like they're working this way. So you insert the hook. It's like you would now. If I was going to Texas rig it, I'd break it out, but not this time. We're going to bring it on around like this. And as it starts making the bend, then we break it out, because that's about the same length, and when we put it there, there we go. We got a straight line right with the jig head, and that's what we want. That's how you want to fish these when you're fishing them on this sort of a thing. But we're going to see if we can get another one. I mean, that last one, he threw it. Like I said, he threw the thing, but it was already getting worn. Didn't take very long for that last one to get worn. I really don't know why. Fishing a windswept area. The wind is coming right into this little cove. And it seems like they're hanging right along the real tall grass that's on that other area, that's on the other shore actually, because this cove narrows down. And as you can see, what we're fishing, there's a lot of weeds here. A lot of this sort of stuff. Coontail. Ton of it. And I'll make a cast right from here. I can get to one of the areas back. I really don't think there's too many fish back there. I didn't really get where exactly wanted. But I don't think they're way in the back. It don't seem like they are. Heck, there's a ton of coontail back there. And coontail, whether you know it or not, it probably rips up soft plastic baits worse than it does about anything. Weeds can be devastating to soft plastics, and if it's a real light soft plastic, weeds can wipe you out before you even get a fish. How do you get around that? You can use something like a Z-Man with Elastex. That helps. But it doesn't mean you'll get the same sort of action or the same sort of allure that you really want. I think this is weeds. Yep. That's how they're feeling today. The strikes are actually coming like they're weeds. Typical cold front, and yet it's fairly warm and humid. And I think, whoop, whoa, there goes one. Oh, this has got to be a small fish. I got it. Well, I guess it is. Can't tell with all these weeds. Maybe not. There we go. No, he's not too bad. But he threw that lure off. So those are a little bit soft. They're really getting beat up in a hurry. Like I said, those weeds aren't helping any. But my golly, the limit getter got one. He wasn't too bad. In fact, in a tournament, he would be a keeper, and he would be what you'd call limit size, especially on this lake. That's just about limit size right there. We're gonna have to get another one. And you know what I think I'm gonna do, just for the heck of it? I'm going to grab a bee fishing jig head. See if it holds these together just a little bit longer. I know one jig head that would, but it's just too heavy. And that's a Blitz. The Blitz jig head that he has, because it's got the screw thing on it. That would definitely be real good. If you've got anything like that, well, I was going to say a hitchhiker, but a hitchhiker isn't going to do you any good, because that just, well, it just wouldn't. That fastens differently. But if you had something like that, was on a hook shank and then screwed on there, these would stay on a lot better. So let me get a different jig head. see if we can hold that thing on just a little bit longer. What I've done is I've dropped down in size really on my jig head. I went all the way down to 3/32. Very, very small head. This has got a bigger keeper barb on it, which might help with this. I really don't know. I really haven't had to, like, again, I do Texas rig them, and I may end up doing that. But we're going to try this first with this keeper barb there. We got it like that, and it's, with that smaller head, it's going to have a little bit slower fall. There's times even that I will use this with hook only. That's it, especially if you wacky rig it where you'd hook it right here. Nothing, just let it drift down and just twitch it like this so that both sides go. That will catch fish too. I'll get my glasses on here and make another cast. This will be interesting to see how this one works. Oh, and by the way, I'm using 10-pound test casting line, and it's what they call Black Mamba, I think it is. But boy, I tell you, you can't even, I don't know if you can, I can't hardly even see that line that's right here in front of me. So it's good that way. Not good that I can't see it, because to tie a knot is a pain in the hind end, I'll tell you. Yeah, that's the head. I can tell it is not going into the weeds as much. It is now because I let it drift down. But even now that it has, it's not. I'll show you. You know how many weeds we had before? It's just not that bad. There we go, we got an acrobat. There we are. Now the one that matches its name, limit getter. While I was doing that, I was thinking of another rig too that works well with this thing. Something that a lot of people don't really think of. We'll get him back in the water. Yeah, he'd measure for a tournament on this like. So that wouldn't be bad. Have a couple like that. Especially the way the fishing's been today, it's been kind of weird. But I've noticed that, I don't know if you've noticed when I'm casting with this, you may have seen a couple of casts there that I've had. This reel, I haven't dealt with it a lot. This, like I said, it's a handing Magic Soul reel, matching rod. But I'm casting a very light jig head on this thing. As I told you, 3/32. And it's casting it with that wind coming in sideways and everything else and not getting backlashes. I'm kind of impressed with that. I did notice though that that's ripped up a little bit more, but while I'm talking about it, I was talking about a jig head. Actually, it's a little bit more than what I'd call a jig head. Hang on. I knew I had one lying somewhere. It's tied to a rod, that's why. This one over here. What I was going to say, these limit getters, they work real well on something like this Casey's runner head. It's put out by the Roadrunner people right here. Now this particular thing happens to be what they call a drop shaft. Another thing that really isn't thought of for a body on this, but it works really well. Haven't tried that but today, but I'm not, because what I'm talking to you about is the limit getter. And that has nothing to do with it except for the head. Like I said, that Casey's head works very well for a limit getter. And if we do want to switch to that, I might just do that. I don't know. But so far, I'm not too disappointed with the fishing. I mean, other than the fact it's slow, which I knew it was going to be. We had, I mean, a major cold front. We had tornadoes, and I think the highest wind that went right through my area was 67 miles per hour. So, you know, it was something major. And by golly, we're getting some storm clouds gathering right now, so we may be going to get kicked in the hind end again. Not quite as bad, I don't think, but it is getting quite humid out. So that kind of looks like maybe something. I know it's going to get a lot colder, and in fact, temperature is going to drop. Highs might drop like 20 degrees from what it's been, and lows, I don't know what it's going to do. But that doesn't make me happy because I like hot weather. But we're going to try this a little bit again here, and maybe we will put that on that Casey's head. Not too sure, because it is working on this one. One thing I've noticed though too, and I mentioned that I dropped to a smaller jig head. Well, it's not getting caught as much in the weeds, such as we talked about, and it's got a slower drop. But do the fish really want that? No, I'm not too sure, because they were going at it much more when I had that little heavier jig on there. It was just that the head wasn't holding it real well, and now it's starting to slip on this one. So maybe none of these heads are going to do that with that single hook like that. But then you put a collar on, definitely not, because that's going to split that out. Now, let's just keep going with this. I've noticed that with this lighter head, I'm better off waiting for it to go down instead of just starting it like I did with the heavier head. Also, the wind is having a tendency to blow it more, where the heavier head it didn't. There we go. He's actually a little smaller than the last ones we've got, I think. Maybe not. About the same size, but again, what happened was that limit getter got shook off of that head too. So just got to find a different way to holding that thing. That's all there is to it. I've had a few problems before with them. They catch fish though, that's the thing, as you can see. But even a bigger barb, because this got a bigger keeper barb on it, it still didn't work. But with this lighter weight, I'm letting it go down. That fish, I just let the thing drift down and kind of wheel it a little bit. And that's what you do with a limit getter a lot of times. And as I said, at times, and it's not today though, you just take it and pull it along slow. And I have not had a single hit like that. But one of the things that is quite similar to fishing, when it comes right down to it, and I'll show you the difference here, is a 4-inch worm. I know that sounds funny, but basically that's what this thing is. It's a 4-inch worm. And I'll show you, I'll grab a regular worm here. Here we go. Now here's a regular natural forage bait worm, 4-inch worm, thin finesse worm. And then you got this. See? Not a whole lot of difference. This is just slightly shorter, and it's got a fatter body with a tapered tail, where this one's got kind of a bulby tail. Is there a difference when you're catching fish? Well, today, I'd say maybe not. In fact, perhaps this would even work better, because they would want something that's a little bit more finesse. This is called a finesse worm than what this is. But this is a finesse bait. I just wish we could get it to hold a little bit better on this. Now, one of the things that I used to do, and I don't have any anymore, is using Carlson's fishing glue. Now, to tell you the truth, I don't even know if they make that stuff anymore. But I was kind of on their pro staff. It's kind of a weird situation that we had. But I had all of it that I wanted to use. And that was one of those products so I couldn't keep around, because what would happen? It'd dry up. You know what super glue's like. And this was a super glue, but different. It had water properties to it, I'd say. In other words, it'd be like waterproof. You could put it on a lure and read. It would not dissolve. It wouldn't bother it at all. It would work. They even had a thing called glitter on with that, and you paint it on and glitter. I still got some of that stuff somewhere. But like if you wanted to, well, what I did is I had a bait. It was quite similar to a rattle trap that had a little indentation in the eye area, and I'd put that glitter on in there because it also had an attractant in it besides being with that flash. Did it work? Yeah, I think it did. Because there was too many times that I did that and bang, had some hits. So let's see if we can get another fish on here before we leave. Now that is a typical limit getter bite, which I just had there. You'll notice I did not do much anything. This is a much smaller fish. But I just let it drop and just barely pulled it. I think he just threw that worm off too. Yes, he did. So, he said I can't see that line even to grab it, but that fish threw that worm off. So I'm going to have to find a different way. I don't know if I want to say Texas rig this or what, but I do know that they're hitting it, and I keep messing around here. I'm going to end up getting a hook in my hand. But this, like I said, it's a smaller fish than what but it's still, he hit it, and that's, in a way, I'm glad that we were able to have that sort of a bite so you could see what it will do. You don't do a lot with it at that point, and like I said, that's a typical limit getter bite. It's one that you're just barely moving the thing, not doing a lot with it, and we'll get him in the water. But then they come up, you get a tick on it, just a slight tick, that's all there is to it. And as I said, it's typical, absolutely typical bite for a limit getter. They just picked it up, barely moved it a little bit. I knew, okay, this is the time to set the hook because I didn't want him to swallow it too deep, which he didn't. And but he did throw my worm back off. And I'm going to be running out of Natural Forage Bait limit getters. I'm going to have to get some more, it looks like, because that's a black and blue color. And let's talk about colors since we're doing this. Colors, do they make a difference? Yes, colors do make a difference. But with this thing, with this limit getter, I have noticed that if I use Junebug and black blue, without a doubt, which we're using right now, and perhaps a green pumpkin seed, those three colors, it's all I need. Why? I think it's because of what that particular bait is trying to represent. I will say I did use regular pumpkin seed, and you should always have regular pumpkin seed. Why should you? Well, that's because it's a lot like the crawdad colors. And crawdad colors, especially when you're fishing a limit getter. And if you're fishing a limit getter amongst a bunch of riprap, you might even be better off with the regular crawdad color, like a green pumpkin seed or And in the springtime, the green pumpkin seed's going to look a little bit more inviting to them. And you'll probably ask why. Because the fact that it is more like what they call a spring crawdad. The spring crawdad has more green on him than what he does later on when he starts getting his other colors and having more brown. So that's what you want to do, is kind of look at that. Do you want pumpkin seed or do you want green pumpkin seed, in order to gauge that if you're fishing a crawdad pattern. The black and blue and the June bug, that's not really what I call a pumpkin seed pattern. That's more of something where they're just feeding on bugs and stuff along shore and other sort of junk, because you can pull that along real slow, and then that kind of represents a minnow, a long minnow of some sort. There's no swimming action, and if you dart it, like we could dart it, but the darting situation was not working today. And the reason that I feel that it doesn't is what we're going to get into in another video coming up, where we're going to be talking about combining darting with finger jigging and straight pull. The darting action, to me, is the trigger action. It's the one that is like a panic mode. In other words, if you're going along and all of a sudden you start darting just like that, it's going to make a fish that's looking for a fish that's in a panic because something's chasing it to go for it. And they're not into that mode today. They are in a mode of where they're just sitting there along by the weeds, in the weeds, and real close to that other shore over there where there's a lot of grass. Anyhow, that's some of the ideas of what I've got on this. And you've been able to see what we do, how I rigged it. As I said, I might go to a Texas rig or something else if I keep fishing here with that, but I might fish something else just to see what happens too. But I'm going to let you guys go, because what I wanted to talk about was fishing a limit getter, in this case a Natural Forage Bait limit getter right here. And look for that logo. In fact, if you're looking for anything, here's the logo right here. Hopefully you can see that. I know that it's kind of a dark because the sun's in a different position. We've got dark clouds and what have you, but put it up closer, you might be able to see it better. That's the logo for Natural Forage Baits if you want them. They're a great bait. They're got good prices on them. If you can't find them at your local area, which I'm getting a lot of people asking about, then go to their website, because you can order them right off the Natural Forage Bait website. They have a regular store. So until next time, get out on the water and enjoy a great day of fishing.